Hello, and welcome to today's episode of In the Moment. I'm your host, Michael Clark, certified life coach, former therapist, and owner of Clark Coaching Services. I was a therapist for 8 years in my career and have been a life coach for almost 2 years now. And I just want to give back and share my knowledge and experience with you to try to help navigate this thing we call life. Thank you in advance for listening, and I'm so glad you're here. Hey everyone. Welcome back to In the Moment. Whether you're commuting, getting ready for the day, brewing coffee, folding laundry, or simply taking a few minutes to slow down, I'm really glad you're here. So I want to tell you a brief story. I've been having some shoulder issues and going to physical therapy. It's only 15 minutes away, and I am a stickler for punctuality and using the full force of alarms on my iPhone. I have alarms for medication, the therapy, social media posts, classes I teach, and client contacts. Every Monday, I need to be at physical therapy at 10 a.m., so I set my alarm for 8:30 a.m. to give myself an hour and 15 minutes to get going. Have my tea, shower, check emails, play with the cat, etc. And every Monday, I still arrive 2 minutes late. I even set an alarm for 9:45 a.m. to remind me when I need to leave. This morning, my 9:45 a.m. alarm went off, and I was only halfway through with my tea and hadn't showered yet. But I did play with the cat. So what happened? Today, we're talking about chronic lateness. And I want to approach this with empathy, clarity, and zero judgment. If you're often late to work, appointments, classes, dinners, flights, or just meeting a friend, you already know it takes a toll. Not just on schedules, but on self-esteem, trust, and the way you feel in your own body. You've probably heard every tip: leave earlier, set more alarms, respect people's time. If it were that simple, you would have solved it by now. Chronic lateness is rarely a calendar problem. It's a nervous system pattern. It's an emotional rhythm you learned somewhere along the way. It's about transitions, activation, and how your brain senses time. That is where change becomes possible. So let's start by naming the lived experience. When you're someone who runs late, you don't plan to. You wake up with decent intentions. You care about showing up well, but time does not feel like time until the last moment. At first, there's spaciousness. I've got time. That feeling is genuine. The clock exists, but it isn't embodied yet. You keep working, scrolling, tidying, talking, drifting, or trying to finish just one more thing. Then suddenly it's late. Your chest warms, your heart rate ticks up, your thoughts snap into focus, adrenaline arrives like a switch. Now you can move. Ironically, in that rush, you often function well. You're efficient. You make decisions quickly. You get out the door, but you arrive with cost. Tension in your shoulders, a knot in your stomach, an apology on your lips, and disappointment in yourself. Afterward, guilt and promises. Next time, I'll be different. And maybe you are for a day or two. Then the pattern returns, not because you don't care, but because your body is following an old script. Here's that script. No urgency, no activation. Calm feels unfocused. Neutral time feels vague. Your system waits for pressure to kick you into motion. Pressure becomes the on switch. And like any habit loop, The more you use it, the more your body expects it. And where does this come from? Often early life. Maybe mornings in your home were hectic. Maybe routines were inconsistent. Maybe you learned to perform only when stakes were high. Maybe time was flexible and nobody modeled proactive preparation. Maybe you lived with anxiety, ADHD, or the constant work of attending to other people's emotions. Your body learned urgency equals clarity. Rushing equals energy. Last minute equals now I can start. Calm felt unfamiliar. Chaos felt like home. That conditioning collides with relationships too. Other people experience your lateness as disregard. You experience it as a mystery you can't quite solve. Shame steps in, but shame does not create change. It freezes learning, actually. So let's talk about how to replace shame with something more positive. We're not talking about perfect punctuality. We're talking about just arriving with care. Not care for the necessarily other person, but care for yourself. The hardest part of being on time is not the doing, it's the switching. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Stopping one activity and starting another requires emotional closure, cognitive redirection, and a small grief, leaving the comfort of what you're in. If your nervous system resists that discomfort, your mind bargains. Just one more email. Just one more press of the snooze button. Just one more scroll. Minutes evaporate. Alarms ring, but your body is not ready to move. So you negotiate with the alarm instead of shifting your state. This is why the usual advice doesn't work. The problem isn't that you need to try harder or set louder alarms or more alarms. The problem is that your body is not ready to move when the clock says it's time. You don't need more discipline. You need gentler transitions that help your nervous system shift from one activity to the next. Here's a pattern many people fall into. 1, there's no urgency, so it's hard to get moving. 2, suddenly time runs out. 3, the adrenaline kicks in and then you can move. 4, you hurry, arrive stressed, and apologize. 5, you feel guilty and promise to change. And 6, the cycle repeats. To change this, we don't force urgency. We just start the shift earlier in small, calm steps. No rushing, not panicking, just giving your body time to catch up with the decision to leave. Here are practices that might help offered as experiments, not rules. Again, no judgment here. Practice 1, make time tangible. Don't estimate from memory, observe reality. Time how long it actually takes to shower, pack a bag, prep lunch, find your keys, or drive on a normal Tuesday. Most people with chronic lateness estimate from the best day, not average day. Reality-based timing is not shaming, it's compassionate accuracy. Practice 2, build a 5-minute transition ritual. 5 minutes before you need to leave, pause. Close the laptop, put the phone down, stand, breathe, check keys, wallet, bag. Allow your body to arrive at the fact that you are leaving. This pause interrupts the habit of waiting for adrenaline to move you. Practice 3. Externalize the transition. Put cues in your environment that invite movement. Shoes by the door, bag packed the night before, coat on a visible hook, a small sticky note that says, begin wrapping up. External cues reduce cognitive load and ask less of willpower. Practice 4. Reduce stimulating tasks before departure. If you get locked into a video, a messaging thread, or deep work, your brain will not want to exit. 10 to 15 minutes before you leave, shift to lower stimulation activities. Stretch, tidy one small surface, refill your water, or review a simple checklist. Lower stimulation equals easier exit. Practice 5. Choose one arena to practice. Don't overhaul your whole life at once. Decide, I'm practicing calm departures to travel to the airport. Or I'm practicing arriving with care to medical appointments. Or I'm practicing relaxed movements to get to work. Specificity protects energy and builds evidence that change is possible. Practice 6. Expect discomfort and name it. Being early may feel boring, restless, or even wrong. That feeling is your nervous system adjusting. When you notice it, say, this is the part where it feels weird, but I'm safe. I'm okay. Naming the sensation prevents you from solving discomfort by creating last-minute urgency. Practice 7. Repair with people you love. If lateness has worn down trust, repair is more than sorry. Try, I value you, and I see how this impacts you. I'm learning why it happens, and I'm practicing new ways of showing up. I may not be perfect at first, but I am committed. Repair rebuilds safety and invites support. Practice 8. Rewrite identity language. Instead of, I'm always late, try, I'm learning to arrive with care. Or, I'm practicing aligned arrival. Identity drives behavior. Gentle identity shifts make new actions feel congruent and not forced. Practice 9. Rebuild self-trust with small promises that are easy to keep. Pick one very small action you can commit to, like, I'll start getting ready at 7:25. Then follow through on just that one thing. When you keep small promises to yourself, your nervous system learns that it can move without pressure or panic. Self-trust grows through consistency, not intensity. And these tiny, kept promises build confidence. And finally, practice 10. Create an arrival ritual. When you arrive early or on time, give your body a soft landing, a sip of water, a long exhale. A simple note in your phone that says, I made it. Reinforce the state you want more of, calm, and be proud of your accomplishment. Now, let's touch briefly on context that complicate lateness. If you live with ADHD, time may feel like there are only two states, now and not now. Your brain might not activate until something feels urgent or interesting. That doesn't mean you can't be on time. It just means you need visible and simple supports. Things like short checklists, a timer that you can see and hear, having your bags packed beforehand, or cues like, when I put my shoes on, I start getting ready to leave. If anxiety is present, leaving may represent exposure to traffic, to people, to evaluation, to the unknown. Your body may delay to avoid discomfort. Meet anxiety with compassion. I can be uncomfortable and still take the next step. This softens avoidance without shaming it. If trauma is part of your story, being on a schedule may feel strange or uncomfortable. So instead of pushing yourself into strict routines, focus on creating gentle, safe structure at your own pace. And if it feels hard, support is available. You don't have to learn calm alone. Now let's talk about relationships again, because chronic lateness is rarely a solo experience. When you practice differently, tell the people who matter. Invite collaboration, not criticism. I'm working on calmer departures. If I'm quiet 10 minutes before we leave, I'm not ignoring you. I'm supporting my transition. Shared language turns potential conflict into teamwork. And that old saying, teamwork makes the dream work. Corny, I know, but it works. Now, I want to name the quiet grief I mentioned earlier that sometimes sits beneath this topic. Repeated lateness can erode self-image. You might carry stories like, I'm unreliable, or I'm a disappointment, or I'll always be this way. Those stories are heavy. They're also incomplete. You are not your hardest pattern. You are a person learning to relate differently to time, sensation, and change. Growth is allowed to be gradual. Dignity is allowed to be present the whole way through. You're not broken. You adapted. You learned to run on urgency because urgency worked until it didn't. Now, you're learning presence. You're learning to move earlier, softer, steadier. You're learning to arrive the way you want to be experienced and the way you want to feel. You deserve departures that don't require a scramble. You deserve arrivals that feel like relief, not recovery. You deserve relationships that trust your word because your body trusts your process. Change will eventually be ordinary to you. A minute gained here, a pause kept there, a breath where an adrenaline spike used to be. That's what progress looks like in the real world. And that's enough. You don't have to be perfect. Now, I want to challenge you with some simple reflections based on what we've been talking about over the last few minutes together. Just think about the following. Ready? Reflection 1. Where do you feel the first signal that it's time to leave? Head, chest, stomach, throat, hands, feet? Can you notice that signal 5 minutes earlier? Reflection 2. What is the one task that most often steals time before departure? Name it without judgment and plan a gentler exit from it. Reflection 3. If you arrived 5 minutes early, what would you do with those minutes to help your body land so you begin to trust and feel safe and okay? Reflection 4. You are not alone. So who could support your transition with one kind reminder? And what words would feel respectful for both of you? Reflection 5. What identity statement are you ready to retire? And what new sentence describes who you're becoming or how you want to feel? Reflection 6. Which cue in your environment can you move around or away from today so that tomorrow's departure is simpler? Reflection 7. When you imagine arriving calm, what sensation do you want to feel first? Reflection 8. What promise can you keep today that is so small it's impossible to fail? Keep that one. Reflection 9. What does repair look like with someone you care about that you've kept waiting? Draft the words and use them at your earliest opportunity. And reflection 10. What would an early arrival ritual look like in your real life? Water, a breath, a stretch, or even just a simple smile to yourself? Thank you for spending this time with me. If this episode was helpful, share it with someone who's tired of rushing. And if you want extra support, you can always reach out for coaching. You know how to find me, clarkcoachingservices.com. Wherever you are on this path, I'm glad you're here. Let's keep practicing one gentle transition at a time. Thank you.